Good morning, friends. Here is Mangesh Naneshwar Borkar sir, Director Sambodhi IS IPS Academy, Mumbai Thane. And today, 8th November 2020, uh, this is our seventh session of our 8 days UPSC Civil Services mains examination workshop. We started our session, special session uh, with respect to UPSC mains examination. And first session started on 1st November. In first session, inaugural session, my batchmate of UPSC, Dr. Hemant Tirpude, so he motivated you, he delivered for you uh, important approaches toward this examination, UPSC Civil Services examination, that why should we prepare for civil services examination, and what should be your mentality, what should be your vision, what should be your approach towards this examination. So each and everything, that particular perspective, rather ethical perspective, and responsibilities, your power to impart social justice to the people. So that all these things that were discussed by Dr. Hemant Tirpude with you. And recently he is posted at regional as a regional provident fund commissioner of Solapur and Kolhapur region. And later on, we discussed geography for general studies first paper, general studies second paper, general studies third paper also. And now in today's session, here with you, my student, Dr. Ramdas Bhise, who is basically MBBS doctor from KEM Hospital, Mumbai. He joined Sambodhi Career Academy at Cotton Green, Kalachoki branch, Abhyudayanagar branch, which was at Abhyudayanagar Municipal School, Kalachoki. And at that time, these three doctors joined my institution. And Dr. Ramdas Bhise qualified this very examination, that is UPSC Civil Services examination in 2015-16 batch. Okay. And that too in a second attempt. Okay, that too in a second attempt. So examination, UPSC, many of the students, they are having misconceptions that somebody may not qualify this examination in a first or the second attempt. But Dr. Ramdas Bhise, with his dedication, with his own hard work, okay, with his smart study, and under the mentorship of Sambodhi Career Academy and other persons also, he qualified UPSC Civil Services examination in second attempt, and he got selected as IRTS, so Indian Railway Traffic Services. I welcome Dr. Ramdas Bhise on the behalf of Sambodhi Career Academy. Dr. Ramdas, मैं आपका स्वागत करता हूँ संबोधि करियर एकेडमी में फिर से एक बार। और हमें खुशी होती है जब हम देखते हैं कि हमारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस में जिन्होंने एक समय गाइडेंस लिया था, वो स्टूडेंट्स आज एक अच्छे पोजीशन पे है, पावर्स उनको मिल रहे हैं along with responsibilities, and they are doing great thing for the society. Okay. And whatever the mission of Sambodhi Career Academy, which I started at the cost of my own careers in 2004, actually, since from Nagpur. So when I look back for these 15, 16 years, so I feel proud sometimes कि okay, whatever I left to produce, to create ethical officers, to create officers having constitutional spirit, and those who are in fact working for the betterment of the society. So I feel proud after observing and after like getting work of students like you. So मुझे अच्छा लगता है कि जो कुछ मैं कर रहा हूँ इतने सालों में, और अपने जो स्टूडेंट है संबोधि के, वो अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं सोसाइटी के लिए, जिस किसी पोजीशन पे वो लोग हैं, चाहे रेलवे सर्विसेज में हो, चाहे पुलिस सर्विसेज में हो। हमारा स्टूडेंट जो है, जो आपके सीनियर बैच का था, डॉक्टर प्रवीण मुंडे, वो भी आज एसपी है जलगांव में, और उसका भी वो भी अच्छा काम कर रहा है। डॉक्टर प्रवीण who qualified from our institution in a very first batch, okay, from the same Kalachoki branch. So I feel proud, and I hope कि you people, you students will continue this missionary work or work for the betterment of the society till your retirement and even after that. Okay, so without discussing much about our success or whatever, I just once again I welcome you on the behalf of Sambodhi. Dr. Ramdas is from a very humble background. He is from a very rural background. Okay, he belonged to Solapur district of Maharashtra and Marshiras basically. And his parents are in farming profession, so they are farmers basically. And so there are 3-4 criterias, like he belong to farming family, farming कृषक फैमिली से वो बिलोंग करते हैं, रूरल एरिया से है, स्कूलिंग से लेके मतलब जो मराठी मीडियम वगैरह जो रहता है, काफी सारे स्टूडेंट्स को महाराष्ट्र के बोलो या फिर भारत के काफी सारे जो स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं जो यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन करना चाहते हैं, उनको ऐसा लगता है कि उनका जो बैकग्राउंड है, रूरल बैकग्राउंड है या फिर लैंग्वेज की प्रॉब्लम है, जैसे वर्नाक्युलर मीडियम से स्टूडेंट्स आते हैं, तो काफी बार ऐसा होता है स्टूडेंट्स को कि ऐसा लगता है कि अरे हम कर पाएंगे कि नहीं कर पाएंगे। तो डॉक्टर रामदास भिसे का जो बेसिक एजुकेशन रहा है वो रूरल एरिया से रहा है, ओके, और उसके बाद भी उन्होंने एमबीबीएस किया, जो भारत का जो एक बहुत ही फेमस कॉलेज है केईएम, ओके, वहां से उन्होंने एमबीबीएस किया। बस वहां से 10 मिनट की दूरी पे मेरा इंस्टीट्यूशन था, तो काफी सारे जो स्टूडेंट्स है केईएम हॉस्पिटल के या फिर नायर हॉस्पिटल के, जेजे के, जो मुंबई के जो टॉप मोस्ट कॉलेजेस है, वहाँ के स्टूडेंट्स अभी भी मेरे पास आते हैं। बॉम्बे वेटरनरी कॉलेज है परेल का, वहाँ के भी स्टूडेंट्स, वहाँ के तो मेरे 3 स्टूडेंट्स फर्स्ट और सेकंड अटेम्प्ट में इंटरव्यूज में थे। 2010 8 8 9 10 की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, उस समय फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में ही वो इंटरव्यूज में गए थे। ओके, एक उसमें बिहार का था, एक दो स्टूडेंट्स एक ही महाराष्ट्र के थे। सो मेडिकोज का बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट रह चुका है, मेडिकोज, आईआईटीएंस एंड इनफैक्ट दोज हु आर like dedicated and those who are from the other branches of education also. तो जो लोग डेडिकेटेडली इसको करते हैं उनके रिजल्ट आ ही जाते हैं, लेकिन आपको कंटिन्यूशन में इसकी प्रिपरेशन जो है करनी होती है। तो हमारे पास आज जो हमारे स्पीकर है इस सेशन के लिए, उन्होंने ये एग्जामिनेशन सेकंड अटेम्प्ट में क्वालिफाई की है, ये बात आप ध्यान में रखिए। और ऑलमोस्ट 2 to 3 इयर्स के 2 to 3 इयर्स अच्छे एफर्ट्स लेने के बाद ये सक्सेस मिला है, एंड नाउ ही इज पोस्टेड एट सोलापुर। ओके, सो विदाउट वेस्टिंग टाइम, आई वेलकम Ramdas on the behalf of Sambodhikar Academy, and I like now over to you, Dr. Ramdas, this session, and I expect general motivation from your side. At the same time, our topic of discussion is specifically related to Gender Studies 4th paper, that is ethics paper. Okay, so on that you can put a light. We don't have any time constraint. Okay, we don't have any time constraint, so you can deliver this session for 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours. Okay, it's not a problem. Okay, so whatever you feel comfortable, you can talk with students. Okay, so over to you, and welcome once again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Good morning, sir, and good morning, all of you. As sir has introduced me, wait for a second. Yes. So myself, Dr. Ramdas Bhise, I have joined Indian Railway Traffic Service in 2016. I come from the Fondshiras. Name of village is, my village is Fondshiras. Fondshiras in Solapur district. And I am from farming family as told by sir. So not only farming family, my parents are not educated. So from childhood itself, I used to do well in studies. I studied till 10th in my village itself in Marathi language. And as I used to get good marks, my parents' expectations increased over the period of time. So after 10th, I felt that I should have some security, job security. So due to that, I decided to go towards the medical line. Though from school days itself, I used to think that I should try to achieve what is the best or what is highest possible position in the administration or in the society. So, but in rural area and in the initial days of schooling, I didn't had much confidence of preparing for UPSC directly. That's why I used to uh, think about some job security. So after 10th, I moved out of my village to taluka place in Satara district. Name of that taluka is Phaltan, and I studied there 11, 12. After that, I was lucky enough, and my hard work and uh, perseverance paid off, and I got admission in the KEM Hospital, GS Medical College and KEM Hospital for the MBBS in 2008. All of you may know that KEM is topmost college in Maharashtra.
हाँ
बॉम्बे
ये EM
मुंबई नहीं यार जे
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
यस सर
Yes, sir.
अरे सर लेफ्ट झाले
Yes. After joining the MBBS, I used to think about preparing for UPSC. So in second year or third year, I came to know about Mangesh Borkar sir, and one of my friend uh, came to know that he is very near to us. That is in a distance of 3 to 4 kilometers. That is Kala Chowki. So we used to visit sir. Three of us used to visit us, and from that time I decided to prepare for UPSC only, because after entering the MBBS, I had two options. One is do post graduation and continue in the medical field, which is medical field is a noble profession, and another is the administration, which I used to think from my school days. So after meeting the Mangesh sir, I prepared my mind that I should continue with the I should start preparing for UPSC after MBBS. So I didn't appear for any postgraduate entrance after MBBS. I had a good score in the MBBS preparation also. So during that time and after my completion of MBBS also, I used to be in touch with sir. And one thing which I felt very important in the UPSC preparation, and I tell I used to tell everyone, and I will tell you people also, that you should have one good mentor in UPSC preparation, or that mentor can be one of the senior who has qualified exam or who has done well in UPSC, or it may be the teacher, but teacher should be able to give some time, personal time for you people. So I feel that I was lucky enough to get the mentorship of the Mangesh sir during the early days of my preparation. So after uh, completion of MBBS, I moved to Delhi, as there is a culture in Maharashtra that if you want to prepare for the UPSC, you have to go to Delhi. So there are cost benefits, advantages, disadvantages, all things are there. And I I used to in initial 2-3 years I used to uh, work in the hospital for 3 to 4 months and then study for the remaining part of time because I had to sustain myself and I had to study it also. In 2000, I moved to Delhi in May 2014. In August 2014, uh, there was prelim examination. I and I couldn't qualify that. So it became some sort of ego issue for me that I couldn't even qualify for the preliminary examination. So I worked for 3 to 4 months after prelim exam till February, and I started full-on preparation from 2015 Feb. And exam prelim was on August 2015, and in December mains. So I used to study as many hours as possible in a day. I used to reach the library in Rajendra Nagar, Delhi. There are good libraries. I used to reach a library at 9 a.m. and I used to come back to my room at 3 a.m. at midnight. So in between, I used to have some time pass, lunch, dinner, etc., chit chat with the friends. But I used to utilize maximum time period, and that's why I feel that I could qualify the 2015 UPSC exam, uh, first mains and first interview also. After that, I got IRTS, Indian Railway Traffic Service. Right. Many people may not know this service. So it is one of the uh, prominent service in the Indian Railways. It looks after commercial and operating type of work in the Indian Railways, and informally it is called as IAS of Indian Railways. So I had joined the service in 2016, and after that also I appeared for 2 interviews. In 2019 also I appeared for interview. Earlier my optional used to be medical science. I changed my optional in 2019 to anthropology. So there are some reasons why I couldn't make it to the final list, which I am fully aware of. But one thing which I want to highlight is in 2019 UPSC exam in GS paper 4, I got 132 marks, and it is considered one of the good scores in 2019 exam. Toppers got around 130 to 145, so 132 is good score. So this is my introduction and my association with the Sambodhi Career Academy. Now I want to start the class. This is orientation class. I will try to tell you what things need to be done for getting good marks in this paper. You will read some source. You will come to know about different terminologies. You will apply it. You will write. But there are few things which are not there in books. So, and I feel personally that these things helps to get good marks. So first of all, you guys are in the preparatory stage. So you should make these ethical values which are there in syllabus as a part of your life. Think about each and every issue, or at least 5 to 10 issues every day, which which you face from the ethical perspective. Ethical perspective means what is right, what is wrong, or is what is happening in society is right, or it should be, or should it be different, etc. So you need to go through the syllabus and then read about these things, have some initial type of knowledge about like what is ethics, integrity, aptitude, integrity, etc., etc. And after that, you will be easily able to relate to different things in your real life. So I feel that if you do this, you will find different examples about all the things which can be applied in your answers, and these examples will be unique. These examples will not be from any coaching classes, because if these are given in the coaching classes, many of the candidates will write that only. But if you think from that perspective and prepare your own examples, make note out of that, then you have some different type of answers which may be appreciated by the examiner, and you can get the good marks. See, there are around 13 questions in theory part. There are two parts in the ethics, uh, theory and case studies. 120 to 130 marks theory and equal weightage to the case studies. So you have to get 1.5 mark extra than other students. So these things from very formative years of your preparation can make whole lot of a difference in your final score. And see, if you get around 10 marks more than your peers, your competitors, you will get 70 marks more than your competitors in all the papers. So you need to act on small things, and in the end it can make big difference. So I feel that these type of thinking should be inculcated by you people. And see, if you do not do that, what you can do, you can write the examples from the some coaching classes or some books, or you can create your own imaginative example. But these things become very superficial in your answers, so it may not be appreciated and you may not get good marks. And if you fake the your approach or answers, then there comes inconsistency in your answers. Examiner is not going to look into your only one question. He will go through all your questions, and there should be some consistency. So if it is inside you, then only it will come into the paper, because you are going to get only 6 to 7 minutes for one question, and you have to write around 100-150 words in that time period, think in that time period. So you cannot create imaginative answers. What is there in your head, what is there in your mind, it will come in the paper, and it will reflect your personality. So I think that uh, you should give much importance to these things. Then, as I told you, read the syllabus properly. It will be very, I feel that today's lecture will be, I will consider today's lecture as a productive if you people go through the syllabus and you can mug it up. And in everyday newspaper, you can look at all the things and you can apply that. Like if some issue comes about the there are different type of news, like some poor patient come to the private hospital, they are not getting admitted because they don't have money, then they are sent to other hospital, and in the meantime uh, patient dies. So these type of examples, they are there in the question papers, and some of these examples are pick up and they come in the question paper as a in the case studies. So you have to think from ethical perspective, like what went wrong, what is wrong with that private medical hospitals, what is wrong with the uh, ethical behavior of the doctors or hospital administration, what is wrong with the society, why this type of happening is tolerated by the society. So these type of things, if you think about that and what should actually be there, so if you try to think about that, your thinking will develop in that direction, and over a period of time you will become a good, first of all, good human being, and after that you can get good marks in the examination. So this is very important thing, that daily you should look into the ethical issues which are there in the uh, newspapers. For example, in today's times, there is economic slowdown. Many industries are cutting down their manpower. These are poor people, and they, if they are laid down, they will not get the livelihood. So in corporate governance, which is important topic because India's private sector is increasing and importance of corporate governance is also increasing. So is it ethical to lay off the labor by the company when they need uh, the company much more for their livelihood? These things should be, you should think about all these things. And if you go through the syllabus, if you go through some important books like lexicon, you will be able to get your own perspective. Also refer to UPSC previous year question papers. You will get idea what type of questions are asked in the examination. Earlier, there used to be very general questions like what is happiness, what happiness means to you, how uh, do you make yourself happy in your life. These type of general questions were asked in initial years like 2013, 14, 15, etc. Now UPSC has turned towards the technical type of questions, like they will ask you what is the crisis of conscience, what is the different theories, theory of justice, etc. So you should, your preparation should be uh, guided by the previous year question papers, like what is expected from you by the UPSC. This is given in your syllabus, that what UPSC intends, what UPSC expect from you. It want to expect candidates attitude and approach, and on issues regarding integrity, probity, and problem solving approach. So solving approach is like aptitude, aptitude, your competence to solve the problems. This is given in your syllabus, UPSC's syllabus. So these are, I will sum up briefly each topic. Uh, Before that, I want to add few more things. Also, one important thing I want to add is that in other other question papers like GS 1, 2, 3, or maybe optional papers, there is some sort of balanced view in your answer, and every teacher will tell you that you should have balanced view. But in ethics, it it is only two sides, whether it is right or wrong, and you need not take balanced view in that thing. You need to have some sort of your decision making power, like what is right and what is wrong, and many times your boldness in decision making is appreciated. So this is very important thing, that you should take sides and you should take right side. Okay. And also there are few things, like many things are socially accepted. So maybe things are socially accepted, but they may not be right. So in our society, dowry is socially accepted. but dowry is unethical, it is illegal. So what is socially accepted may not be ethical. So you have to think from that perspective. Also, what is expected, so your approach in answer should be pro-poor, pro-more, pro-woman, or compassion towards the vulnerable sections of society, empathy for the uh, disabled person, respect for elders, etc., etc. Like what are there which are taught to us from our childhood? These should be the things which should come in your answers. So ethics and human interface. So generally these things you need to read, and I think Lexicon, the book of ethics, is a good reference book for the preparation of all these things. So ethics means study of human actions from the point of view of rightfulness or wrongfulness. So what is right or what is wrong, and why person should be ethical. So it is for ultimate happiness of the human being and for the society. So ethical behavior means it comes as a different types of values or standards in individual lives, or set of standards which are set up by the society as ethical behavior. There comes one more thing like a morality. Morality is a personal conscience. So society may be thinking differently, but what do you think about particular issue? For example, say dowry. Society may have social acceptance regarding the dowry, so it in India it is illegal, but from societal perspective it may be ethical, but from personal perspective, that is from morality, it may be immoral, that is unethical. So ethics is a broad perspective, and ethics means how you behave in front of society or in front of the people. And morality is a personal commitment, like how you behave when people are not watching you. So for example, like uh, if the person throws the garbage in the dustbin when only people are watching him, he is trying to be ethical. But even if people are not watching him and he has a personal commitment for the cleanliness and he is throwing the garbage in the dustbin, even if people are not watching, it is a morality. So this is some sort of difference. Also I want to discuss about ethics in private and public relationship. So see, ethical behavior is undivided behavior. It can't be different in one place and different at another place. It is your personal commitment for rightful behavior. So there was one case study, like one CEO of the private company was uh, very well mannered person, who he was very good in his professional competence. He was treating all the employees nicely, he was taking care of all the employees nicely, but in personal life he used to do violence with his wife. So that person cannot be uh, termed as ethical. He is unethical even if he is behaving nicely in the public sphere, but he is showing lack of character at private space, that is house. So ethics in private and personal relationship can be, it can have different perspective, but ethical behavior is undivided behavior. Also, in different questions and case studies, also you need to use the human values, different human values like truthfulness, justice, responsibility towards your friends, family members, etc. Then love and care for other human beings. So these human values can be taken from different leaders, reformer, administrator. Leaders are selfless. They work for the people. They work for the society. Administrators they are objective, impartial, non-discriminatory, or having compassion towards the poor sections of the society. So these different type of human values can be inculcated from different type of leaders or administrators, etc. And these, whatever I told you, like truth, love and care, justice, responsibility, these values are inculcated in human being from very formative years of life, from the childhood itself. So family is major contributor in formation on or inculcation of human values in a person. Also, school plays important role in inculcation of human values, and also the society. Society is most important part in inculcation of the human values. So next thing is attitude. Attitude is feeling or belief that determine the behavior of a person. Like any object, like any religion, race, human being, or anything about which I have some belief, and that is called as attitude. For example, if you come across some Pakistani citizen, you may have some attitude of some sort of may displeasure or maybe hate. But if you come across the Bhutanese citizen, we used to have good relation, and we show some uh, camaraderie with Bhutanese people. So these type of attitude is formed by our beliefs. So there can be moral attitude, like what is right and wrong. Political attitude, like you may have some bias or some leaning towards one political party, or some ill will or disfavor to other political party. These things are there. You need to go through these things. Social influence. Social influence means study of how individual thoughts, actions are influenced by social groups. So recently, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan from 2014, this mission used the social influence to change, to do the behavioral change in the people, like how people in society behave, like open defecation free villages. So government use this policy, like bringing social pressure or influencing the people's behavior on the basis of how society behaves. And there is a improvement in open defecation issue in India, and many of the Indian villages have been declared as open defecation free. Persuasion is a attempt to change person's attitude. So if one any person is say he is a smoking is injurious to health, so he need there need to be some attempt to change his attitude towards that smoking type of thing. So in that thing, the telling person about that thing is very important. In this case, it is important that who is telling them. If doctor is telling them, it can have some impact because it has the credibility, because doctor know about the ill effects of the smoking. So persuasion should be done by some expert, or the person with credibility. So these social influence and persuasion can be used to change the attitude, negative attitude of the people. Next is aptitude. Aptitude means competence to do certain type of work. Like in aptitude means you are competent to solve the mathematical problems. Your competence to solve the uh, some social issues or some conflict type of situation. This is aptitude. So attitude and aptitude. Attitude is how you think about particular person or particular object, and aptitude means your competence to solve the problems, and attitude shows your character, aptitude shows your competence. So attitude is somewhat permanent type of things, and it is very difficult to change the attitude, but competence can be developed over a period of time by the practice, experience, etc. So this is basic difference between attitude and aptitude. So even if there is not good aptitude, it is better, it can be developed over a period of time, but having a negative attitude is a disastrous thing. So foundational values of civil services, these are foundational values of the civil services. So integrity, it is most important foundational value of the civil services. We use very frequently this word integrity. Integrity means soundness of your moral principles, your undivided and unconditional ethical behavior or uprightness. It is integrity means there should be synchronization in your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Just telling or having good beliefs is not enough. You should have to follow that in your real life, and in it should be applied to you in day-to-day life. Many people confuse about integrity and honesty. Honesty is only being truthful. For example, if any public servant is taking bribe and he is accepting that yes, I am taking bribe, that is his honesty, but his behavior is not the behavior of integrity. He is not showing integrity. So believing that taking bribe is bad and also practicing it in real life, it is integrity. And integrity does not change as per the situation. Like in difficult situation, people may change their behavior for the personal gains. That is lack of integrity. So it is very important thing. Impartiality means acting solely on the basis of merit. Merit is very important, and it is important because their civil servants serve the different governments which are formed by different political parties. So civil servant is expected to give the advice to the political executive which is impartial without any bias. So impartiality and non-partisanship is important thing, because civil servants form the steel framework of the society. Political executive come and go, their ideology changes, but civil servants actually run the country. Objectivity, objectivity is decisions should be based on some observable phenomena, not just on your emotions or some beliefs or prejudices. So objectivity means taking decision on the basis of some costs and benefits, etc. So it is important because objectivity leads to behavior which is non-discriminatory. It prevents the favor or disfavor to different people or different parts of the society. So next important value is dedication to the public service. It is important because public servant is supposed to work for different sections of the society, and many times he has to go out of the way to solve the problems. So whatever are there uh, as rules and regulation, he may have to go beyond that. He may have to go beyond his uh, duty obligations to serve the society. So dedication to public service is important thing. So next is empathy and compassion. So three things are there: sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Sympathy means the person feel for other person or feel sorry for the other people. It is just a feeling. But empathy is ability to imagine oneself in other shoes, not just try feeling sorry or pity about other people, but having some sort of thinking from your side that how that person may be thinking. And compassion means active desire to help that person. I will give one example. If you are walking on the road and you come across one blind person who want to cross the road, so if you feel sorry for that person or pity for that person, it is sympathy. It is just sympathy. But when you go beyond that and try to imagine how he may be uh, suffering due to his disability, visual disability, that is empathy. You feel for that person. And compassion means active desire to alleviate that feelings of that blind person, like active desire to help that person to cross the road. This is compassion. So these are very important values to serve the society. Compassion towards the weaker sections of the society is one of the major motto of the public servant uh, in day-to-day administration. Uh, from this part, many of the case studies are also asked. So you, and this is the part which can be applied on newspaper etc. issues. So you need to look into these things from the books properly. This is very important thing because they are testing the future civil servants, and so they want to test these things in the candidates. Next is emotional intelligence. This concept is getting very high weightage in today's administration. So many research studies has proved that emotional intelligence is more important than your intelligent quotient. EQ is more important than IQ. Many business schools or higher administrative levels, there are courses for the emotional intelligence. So this is what is emotional intelligence. It is ability to perceive and understand your own emotions and regulate that emotions, and also ability to understand emotions of other persons and regulation of that emotions. There are four components of this thing, like self awareness. You should be aware about your own emotions, what you are feeling, what you are thinking. Suppose you suddenly become angry, so you should be able to know that you became angry. That is self awareness of your anger. If you become aware, then only you can act upon it. So first component is self awareness, second is self regulation. So there is self awareness and you came to know that you are angry. So to regulate that, you should have ability to control that anger. That is self regulation. Another thing is social awareness. What is what is expected by the society, how society behave, or how the person in front of you behaves, and what are the emotions of the another person. For example, you are cracking joke on the person in front of you and that person is getting angry. You should be able to identify that the person in front of you is showing displeasure. That is like social awareness or awareness of emotions of another. And social skills is fourth part, or social regulation. You should regulate your behavior as per the social needs. So it is emotional intelligence is important thing in current administration. It is important because complexity in administration, maybe public or private administration, are increasing, and there is a demand of different jobs to work better or do better in difficult circumstances. Due to these things and due to this complexity, this emotional intelligence uh, is uh, having more importance these days. One more component is motivation, that is self motivation. Daniel Goleman is a American psychologist. He has given the model, Daniel Goleman. So in that he has given all these components, and one more component, fifth component, is motivation. Your motivation to achieve goals. For UPSC preparation, self motivation is very important thing. You may have set a goal of becoming IAS at this point of time, and over see one or two exams, there are many people who cannot qualify the prelims only. So you, in that difficult times also, you should self motivate yourself. You should think about your goals. So in that difficult times also, you should motivate yourself to do better in the next examination. There are many examples in which people couldn't clear 5 prelim examination, and in sixth or last attempt they got IS, they got ranked within first 50, etc. There are so many examples. So motivation is a part of emotional intelligence, and it is very important to think about your goals continuously and act to achieve these goals. So emotional intelligence is very important these days. EQ, emotional intelligence, is even more important in than IQ. Many IIT graduates, etc., who used to do well in their academics, that is, who used to have higher IQ but low emotional intelligence, they failed. So this is the thing. And from this topic, one or two theoretical theory questions are asked, and these are very easy. So prepare it well. One, this is important topic: moral thinkers and philosophers from India and world. In writing theory questions and means case studies. Okay, you can apply these things everywhere. If you are confused that what stand I should take, you should apply one of these things in your answers, and your answer can become good. Or in some question there can be in some question there may be dilemma, so you can take help of all these things. So in there are so many moral thinker and philosopher from India, world, etc. I have taken few only which are very prominent. Virtue ethics, so it focuses on character of a person who is doing action, that is character of the agent. If good person is doing anything, it considers his acts as ethical behavior. It is known as virtue ethics. So in virtue ethics is given by Aristotle and Plato. So it considers character of the agent who is doing action. So like wisdom, courage, justice, temperance, these are parts of virtue ethics. I will, in the end, I will uh, give some example like how it should be applied. Consequentialism, next part is consequentialism. In this philosophy, morality depends on consequences of human actions and not on action itself. Like after doing one single particular action, what is the end result? And if end result is good, it is considered as good action, and if result is bad, it is considered as bad action. For example, if person cheats in examination and if he passes that examination, so end result is good, he has passed the examination, so this consequentialism will take that as a ethical behavior. So consequentialism considers end result only, not the means which are used by the person or agent to get the end result. So it considers rightness of the end result. So in consequentialism, one more important concept comes is utilitarianism. Many of you may have come across utilitarianism. Your means how utilitarianism that action may be, or if any action brings greatest good for greatest number of people, then it is considered as ethical behavior. For example, if there is some coal mining project in a tribal area, so coal mining can be good from large number of people because it may give the coal which is source for generation of electricity. So it can give electricity for the so many people, it can have economic growth, etc., etc. So it is considered as ethical behavior by utilitarianism approach, because it is bringing maximum good for maximum number of people. Maybe few of the tribal people may have to displace themselves to other places, or their livelihood may be affected, but it considered maximum good of maximum number of people. So Jeremy Bentham is a philosopher which has given this utilitarianism approach, and consequentialism is considers only end result. So next is deontological ethics or non-consequentialism. So it does not consider consequence of the action, it consider action itself, whether action is right or wrong, end result doesn't matter. For example, if a candidate is not may not have studied well, and if he uh, writes the answers honestly, and in the end result he fails in the examination, this deontological ethics considered it as an ethical behavior because his actions were ethical, he didn't cheat in the examination. So deontological ethics consider the means which are used in achieving the ends, it does not consider the ends. Immanuel Kant is the uh, philosopher who has given this deontological ethics. So next thing is these are foreign thinkers, many others are there, many philosophies are there, you need to get into that. Other, you can use the philosophers of India or religious philosophies, etc., in your answers. Like Buddhist ethics is there, like uh, non-violence, not killing, or non-stealing, or avoiding sexual misconduct, lying, or abstaining from intoxicating drink. These are principles from Buddhism. Same type, Gandhian ethics is also there: truth, non-violence, or doctrine of trusteeship. So many times this doctrine of trusteeship of Gandhiji is also asked in the examination. It shows that Gandhiji thought that the rich people are trustees of the poor people of nation. They are holding their wealth for the welfare of the poor people and welfare of the society as a whole. So the rich peoples are acting as a trustees. So this is doctrine of trusteeship. So all these philosophies can be used in your answers, in different answers, but there should not be repetition. many other philosophies are there. If you use the Indian philosophies, like many in Bhagavad Gita, there is a philosophy of Nishkam Karma, like doing your duties without expectation of the fruits of that actions. Like these things can be used by you in your answers, and it can give the diversity of your approach to the examiner. You can get good marks. So you can use Kautilya, or that is Chanakya, or different type of Indian philosophies, or uh, uh, Western philosophies also. So this is very important thing. You should read it again and again and inculcate it, and you have to use it different case studies and theories. In the end, I would like to end with uh, I would like to discuss about punishment and its ethical justification. So punishment is retribution for deliberate breach of law. So means like how if you do good work, you will be rewarded, like, and if you do bad behavior, you will get negative reward, that is punishment. So this is the ethics of punishment. And there are different theories, like of the punishment, like with respect to punishment or death penalty, etc. Some theories are deterrent or preventive. The person is not punished because he has committed crime, but he is punished because he should not have committed the crime. Means there should be deterrence effect in the society, so that person should not commit crime in his life. So that is deterrent theory or preventive theory, that is given by Jeremy Bentham. Next is retributive theory. Retributive theory means if a person commits crime, he will get punishment as negative reward. As if he does good work, he will get reward, and if he does negative work, he will get punishment. So this is like as simple as that. Retributive theory, it is given by Aristotle. Another one is reformative theory or educative theory. If person committed crime, he should be given some second chance to reform himself, improve his behavior, because it considers different societal or environmental factors which made that person to commit the crime. For example, uh, stealing may have happened out of some incessant needs, etc. So reformative or educative theory is given by Plato, and it considers reformation of the individual. Probity in governance. Probity means whatever we have discussed, like ethical behavior, etc. Probity is evidence of that ethical behavior in public life or public service. It is not just avoiding corruption, etc., but doing what is right for the people, for a society, for the organization. So it is a evidence of the ethical behavior, that is probity. So ensuring probity in the public service is a duty of the public servant. Also, one important thing comes under this is transparency. So transparency means openness in decision making, and letting people know about different type of decisions. It helps society to hold the administration to the account. Next thing is code of ethics and code of conduct. So code of ethics is a larger phenomenon. It is a fundamental principles and values of the public service. These are big things or big values like integrity, impartiality, like honesty, devotion to duty, exemplary behavior. These things are larger phenomena which are expected from the people. And another thing is code of conduct. These different specific rules are framed, set of rules are framed, uh, outlining expected behavior from the member of the organization. That is code of conduct. Code of conduct is very specific, and if this conduct code is not followed, there may be punishment. For example, civil services conduct rules are there, all India services conduct rules are there. If these rules are followed, for example, accepting high gifts which are having high value, that violates code of conduct of the civil services. So uh, it can be punished by the administration, but code of ethics may not punish an individual. Like integrity, honesty, it is difficult to assess that the person has violated these principles. So code of conduct and code of ethics, this same. What is difference between code of ethics and code of conduct? This type of question is earlier asked in the examination. Work culture in current times, private sector is increasing, and work culture, maybe in private sector, public sector, is very important. Work culture means set of practices, values, or shared beliefs by an organization and its individuals. Also, uh, corruption is very important issue, which you will get 1 or 2 questions for sure in every examination, in theory or in case study regarding the corruption. So you need to prepare it well. Corruption can be of 2 types: a coercive corruption, and second one is collusive corruption. Coercive means coerce the people to pay the bribe. If you go to some government office and you want to some certificate, you will be told that it will be you will get it after 1 month or 2 months or 15 days, etc. Even if it can be given on that day itself, or if you have to pay this amount, otherwise you cannot get that. That is coercive corruption, coercing people to pay bribe for you. Another one is collusive corruption. That is the nexus between administrators, politicians, or contractors, etc. They do not demand money from the public, but they collude to usurp the public money. For example, if there is any contract and like building up a road, so if contractor, politician, etc., they collude and uh, uh, do corruption, and which may lead to bad quality of the road, so that is collusive corruption. Ethics in public administration, this is also important topic from where the case studies are asked. So in that, accountability, I want to discuss. Accountability means answerability of an officials for their decisions and actions. Office of whatever action is taken by an official, he should be able to answer why he had taken that action, and even if it comes out as a wrong action, he should take the responsibility. So that is accountability. And responsibility is also sometimes we confuse between accountability and responsibility. Responsibility means public servants responsiveness to the public. Like if a person comes to your office with some problem, you should be responsive uh, to his problem and try to solve that. That is responsibility. But accountability is he should answer to the public that why that problem was not solved. So that is difference between responsibility and accountability. Accountability is a larger thing in which person or official is held accountable for his omission or commission. Whatever he does, or whatever he do not do, even if it is expected from him. One more thing, corporate governance. In recent times, case studies are asked from this thing, and as I already discussed about that laying off of the employee employees due to corona or economic slowdown, etc. In the end, I want to discuss few of the questions. So this is 2019 question paper, and these are a few of the theory questions. Non-performance of a duty by the public servant is a form of corruption. Do you agree with this? Think for a second and think for the answer from your point of view. So you may know that you should answer the question in a format of introduction, body, and in the end conclude. So in that you can start from some, in introduction you can have a quote, or there is a report, ARC report on ethics in governance, in which they have given some formula, like you can start from that, or you can start from any quote of any prominent thinker or leader or reformer in the introduction. Or you can give the, if you do not want to do that, you can give the definition of corruption in the introduction in two words. Corruption means abuse of entrusted power for the private gains. That is corruption. But in this thing, non-performance of a duty. See, public servant is appointed by the government to solve the problems of the people, to address their issues. So he is paid from the public money, taxpayers' money, for doing all these things. If he do not do his duty, then he is getting salary for which he is not working at all, and it shows the moral corruption from his side. Also, it shows lack of dedication to the duty. Okay. Also, responsibility of a public servant to the public is not there. So you can add few more things, or you can bring here the deontological ethics of Immanuel Kant. Like, actions should justify the behavior of the human being. Like, public servant is expected to do his duty. If he is not doing his duty, he is not following that concept of categorical imperative of the Immanuel Kant. So it shows the moral corruption. So you can answer your answer with similar type of quote, etc. So you can write the answers by using the philosopher, or you can write the answers by using these terminology. Ethical perspectives should come in your answers. Quotes, you can use the quotes, etc. in your answer, but it should not be misplaced. Like, it should be properly placed. It should come as a flow, and misplacing the quotes can have negative impact. Next question is crisis of what is meant by crisis of conscience? How does it manifest in the public domain? Conscience means your own moral values or principles which you apply in your day-to-day life, and by applying it you may get happiness. That is conscience. So crisis of conscience means a situation in which someone feels worried or uncomfortable because they have done something which they think is wrong or immoral. You believe in something and due to situation, you have to do opposite of that thing. That is crisis of conscience. For example, you believe that there should not be corruption in uh, public domain, or there should not be corruption at all. But if you come in a situation where you have to give bribe to the public official to get your certificate, etc. Suppose there is a situation that you have to submit one certificate for admission to important course tomorrow, and if you apply today and you want it through normal procedure, you may not get it, or if you have some contacts with the public official, you can get it. But for the normal human being, you may not get it through normal procedure. You may have to pay money, even if you do not believe in corruption. That type of behavior is crisis of conscience. Another example can be, you may not believe in dowry, but one of your in your family there may be marriage of your sister or close relative. In that thing, your family member gives a dowry, and you think about that, but you think about cost benefit, etc., and in the end you do not oppose that thing, even if you do not believe in dowry, or you oppose that type of situation in which you have accepted that unethical or immoral behavior, that is crisis of conscience. For example, recently one IAS officer, Kannan Gopinathan, he resigned from the service, giving the reason that freedom of speech in a society, in this country, has been hampered, and he resigned. So in that case, that freedom of speech may be part of conscience of that person, and he may believe it in so much. But as it is being compromised, he was very uncomfortable to work in such type of administration, so he resigned from the service. So he may have resigned because there was a crisis of conscience. As I had already told you that emotional intelligence is very important topic, and you may get the question 1 to 2 question in examination theory, 20 marks maybe. So next is emotional intelligence is ability to make your emotions work for you instead of against you. Do you agree this way? So emotional intelligence means self-awareness about your own emotions and regulation of your own emotions. This is to be done for handling a difficult situation, difficult circumstances, etc. So ability to make your own emotions work for you instead of against you. For example, if you come up, you can write in this what is emotional intelligence, etc., and in the body you can write 1 or 2 examples about the emotional intelligence. If you for example, if you fall in one circumstance here, solving situation in your office, etc., and even if you get angry because of unjustified demands, etc., of the people in front of you, then also you have to regulate your own emotions, because in such type of situations, if you do not handle that emotions, and if you go in a flow and speak some loose words, it can be taken advantage by the other parties. For example, in administration there are different type of unions are there, they come to you, or journalists are there, they come to you taking different issues. So in that thing, many times their demands may be just unjustified. Still, you have to handle it with cool mind and without getting angry or very excited about that. You have to handle it with care. Otherwise, if you do not handle it with care, it may get out of proportion, like it can become media issue because of your comments, etc. So from it is negative perspective. For example, another is many people get anxious due to examinations, etc. But if you are aware about yourself and if you motivate yourself and about your goal, you can use that anxiety, optimum type of anxiety, for your more dedication and self motivation in the preparation. So these things are, you can write it, you can have your own perspective, you can write in own way theory questions, you can get good marks, but it should be, your answer should be in flow, it should be appealing, it should be like you are convincing the examiner regarding these things. And so you can use the quotes, etc. in that thing, so it can fetch good marks. In the end, I want to take one case study. You can read that. I am giving you 2 minutes. I will read it for you. Suppose you are an officer in charge of implementing social service scheme to provide support to old and destitute women. An old and illiterate woman comes to you to avail benefits of the scheme. However, she has no document to show that she fulfills the eligibility criteria. But after meeting her and listening to her, you feel that she certainly needs support. Your inquiries also show that she is really destitute and living in pitiable condition. You are in dilemma as to what to do. Putting her under the scheme without necessary documents would clearly be violative of rules, but denying her the support would be cruel and inhuman. Can you think of rational way to resolve this dilemma and give the results? You can think about 2 minutes regarding the issue. Which issues are involved in this? So I will start. See, officer in charge of implementing social service scheme. So he need to follow what are rules and regulation of that scheme implementation. So whatever is standard operating procedure or protocol, it should be followed no matter what. Another issue is, major issue is, she is eligible but she does not have the documents. So there comes the issue that is old, illiterate and destitute woman. So there should be compassion in public servant towards this type of woman. So compassion is important thing. Following rules, regulation is important thing. So earlier they used to ask the options, what options are there with you and how will you solve that issue. So option can be different. You can, if options are asked, you can write 3 to 4, minimum 3, maximum 4 options. So you may write the option like, but write first option which is most appropriate. First option should be most appropriate, and from that you can go to least appropriate. You can think about all these things. So I will give options and then we will think about the appropriateness. You can say that you will deny her benefit because she do not have the documents. This can be one option. Another is you will give her, another option is you will give her benefit even if she does not have the uh, documents. Third one can be that you will depute one of your employee to get the documents to solve the problem. Third option can be that. Fourth option can be that you will use the interdepartmental communication channels to solve her problem. So first option, what was first option? That you will not give her support because she does not have the document. Though you may be legally right, this shows lack of compassion from your side. This shows lack of commitment to fellow human being. So this is not right option. Second option was giving the old woman benefit without looking for documents. This should not be done. This shows lack of respect to the rules, regulations, etc. And it can have unintended consequences. It can set bad precedent. It can lead to bad practices over a period of time. So giving the benefit without the document, it is also wrong thing. Third option I had given that you will depute one of your employee to get the documents for her. Many of you may think that this is important, this is appropriate. But see, in government service you have limited manpower, and every person is there for particular set of job. You cannot compromise on that and depute that person to solve the problem of that lady. So though it may show compassion for lady, but it may lead to some bad precedent, and it may lead to some lack of dignity for your employees, or making employee do the work which he is not supposed to do. So this way this option may not be appropriate. Last one is using interdepartmental communication channels. See, uh, there are interdepartmental communication channels everywhere, and in normal circumstances these are used to solve the different type of problems. You can directly talk with the uh, your counterpart in other department regarding that woman and what documents she needs, and through interdepartmental issues you may get that documents, and you can give the you can solve her problem. Here you will show compassion to that lady, you will not misuse your manpower, and also you will follow all the rules and regulations. So this is most appropriate option. So in that thing people may not know that there is interdepartmental communication channels, but over a period of time you will come across different type of case studies, and at least study 50 different type of case studies. Some are asked from the public surveys, like this type of, then some are asked about the integrity, then ethics in public and private, corporate governance. Different type of case studies are asked different here. So you can prepare all types of case studies so that no new type come in an examination, and you can handle it nicely. So in the end, all these things you need to study on your own. I know that I tried to convey all these things very superficially, and as this was only orientation class, but in the end, I want to add a few things which are very important for your preparation, and I think you should apply all these things. So get hold of all the theory part, because over a period of time, the theoretical questions in UPSC are increasing. In case studies also, they are asking the theory type of questions. So read theoretical part nicely. One more thing I told about uh, taking sides. Like there is no balanced view like other papers in this. You have to take bold decisions. It will be appreciated by the examiner. It shows your decision making power. So what is right and what is wrong, you have to find it in black and white. So another most important thing, I got 132 this time because I completed full paper. You have seen these three questions, and you can see if you start writing now, you can write it some way or other. Even if you may not get 5 or 6 out of 10, you may get 2 or 3. So, but if you do not attempt all the questions, you are losing that 2 3 marks. In ethics paper, major issue is time constraint. People are not able to solve the all the questions, so you may end up not writing 3 questions, and you may get 10 to 15 less marks. It can make huge lot of difference. You may get, even if you get rank, you may get rank around 150 or 200 lesser than what you believe or what you have achieved if you attempted full paper. One more thing, whatever said and done, whatever told by me, like inculcating ethical values, etc. In ethics paper, good linguistic skills are very important. You should have good vocabulary of the English, and you should try to express it very nicely. It will, and your good dictionary will have different answers in different questions. See, you start with the first answer, and in the up to 13 there may be repetition. If repetition is there, examiner may not give good marks. So maintain topic wise dictionary. Whatever topics I have given, prepare the dictionary of the terminologies. Like in foundational values, integrity was there, impartiality, objectivity, empathy, etc., whatever. In book, lexicon also, you may get some dictionary, you may get some words, make the dictionary out of that. If the question come from that bit or that part, use these words, and these specific ethical words will fetch you good marks. So I will suggest you to prepare the dictionary about these ethical terminologies and improve your linguistic skills, improve your language abilities. I have seen over last few years that those who are having good English are getting good marks. See, many of you may have been from rural background, etc., etc., but you can improve your English over a period of time. So having good English can fetch you good marks in this paper and in essay paper. And in the end, have a good mentor who can give personal attention. Many times you may be doing hard work, but you may not be going in the right direction. So their mentorship is very important. So having a good mentor is very important in UPSC preparation, because there is a vast syllabus, and many times we do not know whether we are going in the right direction, and after 1 or 2 years you will come to know that this thing I was doing wrongly, but you may have lost 2 years. So having a good mentor is very important. So I want to conclude with this. Thank you so much Mangesh sir for giving me the opportunity. I'm not used to giving the lectures like this, and I think when I got ranked in 2016, I came to your academy and I had some talk with
Yes,
the
yes.
people.
After your result, you visited to Thane branch and delivered a lecture
Yes.
in front of
After
students.
that, sir, I gave one lecture in Mughal Sarai, Eastern UP, when I was working there in the stress management, and this is my third one in my life.
Okay.
I never gave any lecture. And today was good experience for me. And
Yes, yes,
thank you,
yes.
sir, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Doctor. And you have enlightened students, and very nicely you have covered all the topics which are mentioned in this particular question paper, that is ethics. Okay, so I think uh, there is not much doubt, even though this is a orientation lecture, but student must not have many doubt regarding this. Okay, and actually in during our lectures we teach all these things to students properly, as you have finished your session with the vocabulary. So whenever I teach students, and you are also aware about that when you join at Kala Chowki, so we started with some kind of basic things first. Okay, so that is very important for the preparation. uh, Very nicely you took, basically you took efforts for this lecture, because you created separate ppts in an organized manner, and you took entire day yesterday, which was your basically holiday. So you took labor and you took efforts uh, to put this lecture in an organized manner. So thanks, dear. And I hope like few questions from student side. If anybody is having some question, because you will not get regular opportunities to interact with our student officers, because now after getting into services, they are becoming busy. Okay. So and we have been in touch in 3 months back I talked with Ramdas ki I need to arrange your one lecture, and he was very much busy in his posting at Eastern UP. Eventually he just transferred to Solapur division, so he is getting somehow he is managing some time. Otherwise he was very much busy in Eastern UP. So recently he posted and he transferred to native place Solapur division. So anybody is having a question, they can ask.
Sir, I want to add one thing about my job.
Ha.
I'm working here in Solapur as assistant commercial manager. Whatever many of you may be getting news about the Kisan Rail. So I am looking after Kisan Rail in my division. Earlier there was road transportation of this perishable goods like fruits, vegetables in Western Maharashtra from other parts of India. So we started this Kisan Rail from our division from 21st of August, and within 2 months we have uh, transported more than 6,000 tons of vegetables and fruits to Delhi, Patna, Howrah, etc. So this was entirely different uh, revenue for the railway from one side, and farmers are getting good price in outside markets. Like yesterday, one of the farmer came to our office, and he told me that he sent only 5 quintals of guava, Peru, to Delhi. He used to get 35 rupees per kg in Pune, and when he sent it to Delhi, Adarsh Nagar Mandi, he got 65 rupees per kg, and the
Great.
transportation cost was equal when he sends from Solapur to Pune and Solapur to Adarsh Nagar Mandi. So I think that this is very important initiative of Government of India, and our division has done unique work, and our division is leading in Kisan Rail project. and we are increasing our efforts to help the farmers. Western Maharashtra has uh, turned up towards the horticultural crops like pomegranate, banana, and grapes, etc. And these people used to send it by having some higher transportation cost, and we are giving the timely delivery by the Indian Railways. So I am happy to share with you people that I am leading in this project.
Great, great, great. And it is a devotion of yours, yourself and your department too. And I hope ki farmers from Maharashtra and specifically from your region, Solapur region or Solapur division, they will get immense benefit. They are right now they are getting the benefit, but because of your posting there, okay, because one ethical person or one active person, active officer, he can give justice to the to the common people, and that is a expectation of common people from bureaucracy, basically. Okay, so we like students of Sambodhi, these current batch students and those students who join for this special workshop. So we wish you great prosperity and like great wishes for your work in further administration. Okay, so anybody is having any question? Any question regarding this specific session of ethics? I'm expecting some queries or some overall guidance. Dr. Vishakha, you belong to same field. You are from medicine. Okay, so if you want, you can ask question. And then Rutuja, Maithili, Namrata, I'm taking names now. Sushil Kumar. Sushil, we have two Sushils, Sushil Kumar and Sushil. Sushil, तुला काय questions आहे? Sushil आणि सतीश. सुशील, सतीश, सर्वेश, श्रद्धा इंगडे, सावनी पाटील, श्रद्धा चोपडे, श्वेता गावित, मीन्स सृष्टी गावित, तेजल, विपुल रंगारी. Any question? Okay.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Tanvi is having doubt. Doctor, I told you that there is a candidate who is just in 9th standard and she is always having a doubt. Okay, but she is, but she is very much dedicated, and I hope she will become IS or whatever she want in near future. Tanvi.
Sir, we were told that we should write each and every answer in a positive manner. But if we get a question that we can't write the answer in a positive manner, so can we write, can we write it in negative? Can we write like that?
Positive, yes. Many times it has been told, like in mainly paper 1 to 3, like you should not write negative things or write more negative things. You should should have the balance. But in ethics, whatever wrong is wrong. Take the bold decisions. You, if there is corruption, if there is a dowry, it is, if there is female feticide, that is wrong. And you can write it with respect to society, that our society is doing, not doing right thing by having social acceptance or by following these type of things. So in ethics, you can write the negative perspectives also. There is nothing like writing everything in a positive perspective.
Exactly.
In in uh, in other papers also, you should not be pro government every time, but at the same time you should not criticize uh, vehemently, or in very negative way to the government. You should not appear as a rebellion in the administration. You should have positive perspective. You should, in any issue, you can write the positive views, you can write the negative views, and in the end, I am telling about other papers, mainly paper 2, you can, in the conclusion you can write these are positive things, and these negative thing, if these negative things are avoided or improved, then India can be better place for live, etc., etc. Conclusion part should be some broad minded, having some larger picture, like for the society, for India, for the world, etc. But in ethics paper, you should take the sides. Whatever is issue, for example, dowry, that is wrong. You should write that dowry is wrong. This still we are our society is not showing the moral fiber to oppose that thing. These things is going on. We are wrong on that part. So that's why I told you that you should take the bold stand in the answers. It will be appreciated.
Yes, definitely. Ah,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Tanvi, I hope you are satisfied.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Ah, Jay. Yes, Jay.
Sir, as most of the questions are at personal level questions, so can you just give some tips, like what stuffs we have to ignore from getting cancellation of marks, or just getting some less marks? Like what points we have to avoid writing?
See, I will tell you that you should prepare for the paper before going to exam itself. Do not try and write the answers before the examination. Write 3-4 papers at least, so that you should not create something in a paper which may give bad impression. For example, if you are reading different topics, after that you have to prepare examples for that over the long period of time. So sometimes you do not have much time in the examination, like while writing some examples, etc. You may end up writing some unethical thing due to paucity of time, in hurry, etc. So for that, take precaution that you prepare example for each and everything. In coaching classes, there are examples. If you have personal example, that is very well and good. But some very negative view, for example, some controversial issues, etc. Ethical and controversial issues are there which are asked. If you end up giving some negative perspective to the examiner, it may have some impact in fetching the marks. So I think except very much required, you should not try new things in the paper. Your preparation should be before only. Some negative things may appear if you try it for the first time in the paper. You may think that that is right, but that may not be right. For example, very much discussed, debated issue. I just want to give one or two lines. Many times, many people oppose the reservation and they think that that is right thing. But even if the person is from general, SC, ST, OBC, whatever, they need to support that reservation on at least on the paper. That shows compassion for the vulnerable sections of society, and that shows the love for equality of the human being. So these things, if that thing comes in a paper, that may give bad impression that the person is looking from a self-interest point of view rather than interest of the larger section of the society.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I also have one question. So the question is, sir, we learn many things about theory part, about ethics, but practical experience we get through case studies. How to have the way of behaving with the concepts. So these case studies we get limited in the book, suppose. So where we can get the source of the case studies? Regularly, how we should update with the case studies? What is the source through which we can get the case studies and we can learn it.
See, different coaching classes will give the case studies or examples for each and everything in their notes, etc. But try to apply the concept which are there in your syllabus to your real life. Many of what, for example, whatever I explained about you people regarding the crisis of conscience, many of you may have faced that crisis of conscience. You can write that thing in appropriate words in the paper. Every human being has faced the crisis of conscience. That is not the unique to any human being. No person can be ethical each and every time, because our society makes us to take few decisions which may lead to crisis of conscience. Like that, you can prepare your own examples from newspapers, etc. Relate the syllabus to your day-to-day life. Small things I try to give you the examples which are which happen in everyday life. For example, throwing the dustbin, throwing the garbage in the dustbin when people are seeing, not seeing, etc. Small things. Like, also breaking the traffic signals when police is not there, etc. These things, all these examples are there around us. But if you want any guide, you can have that lexicon book has also given few of the examples, and many of the online sources are also there regarding the examples of the case studies, etc. And in theory questions, you have to give examples. Many times they will ask, how, they will give questions, and have you ever faced such type of situation in your life? You have to write about that, and if you prevent it beforehand, you can make it a good answer. And even if, for example, crisis of conscience question, you should write one or two examples. It will give some good, and it will show that you have good understanding of the paper. So I will say that if you do this dictionary type of thing, whichever I told you, you should prepare the examples for each and every question. This is the preparation which should be done for getting the good marks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So basically, ethics is more about our practical approach towards our life. Okay, and whatever value system we have inculcated since our childhood, in our society, during our school days, during our college days. Okay, and in a very positive atmosphere. Sometimes negativity can develop your ethics. Okay, sometimes negative examples of your life also can develop your ethics, can develop your value system if you are having some kind of a positive approach towards life. है ना, कभी कभी हम सुनते हैं कि बाबा मैं आत्महत्या करने वाला था, लेकिन मैंने आत्महत्या नहीं की क्योंकि कोई तो भी साधु संत या फिर कोई अच्छा आदमी मुझे मिल गया, उसने मुझे मोटिवेट किया और फिर मैं आज दूसरे लोगों को मोटिवेट करता हूँ. Okay, so this can be like these kind of events in our life. Okay, or some people you can say something कि that वो वहाँ पे corruption था, तो I saw that corruption, and because of that corruption we lost so many things. So I decided that I should enter into administration, I should become IS officer, I should become IPS officer. So ये क्या है ना, this is like development of your personality. So Satish and all the students, this ethics is like, it is not like you learn to ethics from Mars or the moon. You need to be here on the earth, and from earth itself and from surrounding society you can learn so many things. So this subject specifically is beyond books. Okay, so whatever Dr. Ramdas discussed here, I think that is a crystal clear and multi-dimensional discussion. This session was a multi-dimensional discussion related to so many different aspects of ethics subject. He correlated many of the practical cases, okay, happening in administration, and he has given you approach and proper orientation with respect to answer writing also to fetch good and the excellent marks. And he himself scored the best marks in ethics paper, because scoring 132 out of this 250, it's not a simple thing, because crossing 100 marks in any general studies paper, it's itself a big challenge. Okay, because if you see score cards of students, so nowadays score is less. If you see main score, so that is 850, 800, like that. Okay, if you see score, okay, or maximum 900, 930, 950 वगैरह. Okay, so scoring these 100 plus marks, even that is a good scores. Okay, so anyway, I don't feel that there is any question from student side. And thanks a lot, doctor, to be over here and taking out time from your busy schedule. I expect future sessions in okay, possibly future sessions also, whenever I need your help for the students of our Sambodhi, because as you know that we are like, this is our mission to reach to a maximum students of India. And because of this pandemic, means corona pandemic actually gave us an opportunity to reach to the maximum students of India. Okay, because in 14 years I have been working here in Mumbai and this Western Maharashtra region, but because of constraints of the physical boundaries, or since we have been working here, so we could not reach to different regions, or the students of the different regions, but we got an opportunity because of this pandemic. So हमें pandemic में ये opportunity मिली है, online coaching के माध्यम से हम लोग जा रहे हैं. और ऐसे ही जब सेशंस रहेंगे, तो संबोधि के मंच पे जो अपना आप जैसे फॉर्मर स्टूडेंट्स, एक्स स्टूडेंट्स और जो आने वाले स्टूडेंट्स का एक मंच है, तो उसमें बिल्कुल मुझे जरूरत लगेंगी. So with these words, I am concluding this session. Okay, we are taking a break for half an hour, and after half an hour, we shall have next lecture of Subhash Kamble sir, who is working with government of Karnataka, and he will discuss Indian Constitution. Okay, so dear Ramdas, thanks a lot
Yes, sir.
once again, and
Thank
thanks
you.
students for okay, thank you very much students. Take a break
Thank
for
you,
half
sir.
an hour, and we are
Yes, sir.
meeting at 1:15. Okay, 1:15 PM. Okay, sir. रामदास आपण बोलूया नंतर.
ठीक
Okay.
सर, ठीक सर.
चला,
Thank you,
थँक्यू.
sir.
आणि
It was
खूप
a
छान
really
झालं, खूप छान झालं, खूप चांगलं
Thank you, sir.
guidance तुझ्या माध्यमातून झालेलं आहे आज विद्यार्थ्यांना. ओके, चला, बाय, थँक्स.
Thank you, Ramdas sir.
Sir, 130 or 115?
1:15.